Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. So today's video is all about AWS EC2 instances. This is more for somebody who's never, um, is new to AWS. I just want to make a video because when I first started AWS, I really struggled. I mean, it was so daunting. I actually didn't know, the first time I actually did it, I didn't know what I was doing, and I ended up with a huge, massive bill. If I remember, it was about $5,000, and I woke up in the middle of the night like absolute panic. What on earth am I going to do? It just so happened that AWS spotted that it was fraud, and they kind of told me it's fine. We'll refund. So this video is going to be all about things you should do before you create EC2 instances, and in general the account, how to manage your account and things like that. I'll just give you a few tips. It's not going to be in-depth tutorial. I'll just show you the console, things like that. Without further ado, let's have a go. Hey everyone. So in this video, I just thought I'll kind of just explain a bit of AWS and its core service EC2. If you're new to AWS, this might kind of hopefully helps you navigating AWS, because it can be very, very daunting for somebody who's new. And I'll give you some tips and tricks to make your life a bit easier. So just to explain, the first thing obviously with AWS is its EC2 instances, or cloud compute, what they call cloud compute. And just to explain what that is, roughly imagine you got a data center, one there, right? That's in region A, that's in region B, right? And each one of them have got machines, right? So you've got servers, 1, 2, you've got one there, and I believe they separate this, they do it this way for fault tolerance, just to make sure that if something goes down, they've got other data centers they can rely on. So you got a massive server here, you got a massive server here, and within this they have a bit of software running. So each of these servers has got a whole lot of memory and processing power, GPUs, CPUs, and all those kind of things, and they run a bit of software called a hypervisor. What does a hypervisor do? It allows you to create virtual machines. So in the control panel in AWS, when you go and create an EC2 instance, what you're actually doing is running when you launch an instance, AWS is creating a virtual machine for you with the specs you provide. If I said a T2 micro, for example, they take the specs of a T2 micro and they create you a little chunk of this server is given to you. So that's basically what an EC2 instance is. And depending on the kind of instance you need, you might want to take a bigger chunk of this server. You see what I mean? That's the whole point of an EC2 elastic cloud, basically. So that's in a nutshell what an EC2 is, EC2 instance. And what I'm thinking is, for this video, we might actually go and create one, and I'll show you how I do it, and the do's and don'ts I might point out before you even think of going down that road. So in a nutshell, that's what an EC2 instance is. And you have multiple data centers in the control panel, and I'll show you in a bit. You can select your location or your region you want to launch your EC2 instance. It could be in the US, it could be in Dublin, it could be in London, it could be in anywhere, and different place depending on where you are. If you let's assume your business was in the UK, for example, you'd want something in Dublin or London. You wouldn't want something in America, just because of the latency. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what an EC2 instance is. And I will show you in a bit. So let's just launch one, and I will then navigate sort of the control panel and try and make things a bit easier. So I've logged into my account in AWS, just to show you. I will be blurring out a lot of this stuff, as you can imagine, for security reasons. But to the top right hand corner, you will see the regions I spoke about, and these are all the different regions you can set up your you can operate in. So let's say I took London, for example. You can then create your EC2 instances in London and so on and so forth. That's your account at the top right hand corner. So IAM users are special kind of users. So just to take a step back, before you delve into AWS, one of the things you need to do is have a root user, which is the main account holder, and then what you should do is create IAM users. Each of them then has their own authentication and stuff like that. So you're not operating using the root as a root user. You have each person would have their own roles, and they have different privileges you could give them depending on the kind of person they are. For example, let's say, I'm the account holder, but I want to give person A the ability to only create S3 buckets, for example. They can't create EC2 instances, and they can't do. So if you want to sort of limit that kind of thing, that's where the IAM comes in, and that's what you see here is your IAM username and your account ID. Before we get into any of that, a couple of things I will say is, let me just go back and undo this. Before we get into, so when you're in AWS, the first thing you want to do before you do anything is do not log in as a root user. Once you have your root user account, create a IAM for yourself or anybody else who will be using the account, setting up your servers and whatnot. Let's assume you're not doing it, someone else is doing it. Create an IAM user for them, give them all the privileges. If it's everything, give them everything. Create the IAM user, definitely. And next thing is make sure that the IAM user is using MFA. What is MFA? Multi-factor authentication. So they don't only use a login and password, they have to have a Google sort of some sort of Google, I keep saying Google, some sort of authentication app. I mean, I use Google, hence I'm saying Google, an authentication app on their phones. So when they log into to AWS, they will have to get a code from that authentication app to log in, and that's for security reasons very, very important. So that's set up your IAM, get an MFA. The third thing I would advise, create billing alarms. I'm just calling it A there, but billing alarms, definitely very, very, very important. And you can actually find it by going to billing and cost management, and on the left hand side you will see it somewhere when this loads. Actually just search billing. It's under billing and cost management, I believe. Where is it? Sorry, not alarms, but you actually create a budget, and you kind of tell AWS what your monthly, hypothetically, let's assume it's monthly, what your monthly budget is. Create the budget, and then what it will do, if you exceed that, depending on how you set it up, you might even be able to shut down resources and stuff like that. But if it crosses a particular, let's say you have $50 as your budget for the month, if it crosses $50, you'll get an email or an alert from AWS telling you you've exceeded your budget. And this is really, really important, because if, God forbid, your AWS account has been hacked, what you don't want is someone creating an EC2 instance and using it like crazy. Next thing you know, you got a $5,000 bill, and it's happened to me. So I would definitely suggest creating a budget for yourself before you do anything. Definitely. I've said your bills, but that should actually be a budget. Budget. Create a budget. Very, very important. I'm gonna be like, very important. Definitely create a budget. Sorry for all this stuff. I'm using my mouse to actually do some of this stuff. Definitely, so create a budget once you have that. Those are the do's you must have before you start messing around. Once, soon as you've logged in, get that done. So that's that. I mean, launching an EC2 instance is very, very simple. I normally use the console because I don't really do infrastructure as code. I haven't done it yet. I mean, I could do the CLI, but it just makes it a bit easier. So once you get to EC2, click on EC2, and just be one thing to watch out for is that you select the correct region, because I've fallen into this trap where I launch an instance, suddenly realize I'm in North Virginia when I'm in London. So why would I have a and I actually built an app that caused me, well, not an issue, but like, so I've got the app running in North Virginia, but I'm accessing it here, and I can imagine there's a lot of latency. So then I had to have CloudFront. Anyway, I had to have CloudFront to render some of this stuff, so it becomes easier to render the images and videos and stuff like that. So just watch out for the region. Make sure you're selecting the right region, because sometimes you might launch an instance and you log in and go, where's my instance gone? You've forgotten that maybe you had it selected as London to create the instance, but it's defaulting to North Virginia. So just watch out for that if you don't see. So anyway, so we've got, you can click on instances. I've got 2 instances running, but if you want to launch an instance, you just launch an instance, click on the launch instance button. Here you give the instance name, select the kind of operating system you want. I normally go for Ubuntu, but you can go for whatever you want. And then you select the instance type you want. Let's say if you're at Ubuntu, you have all these different options on the free tier. You've got this Ubuntu 22.4 LTS, and obviously as soon as you have to pay for them, so you can see deep learning, Ubuntu Pro. Depending on the kind of stuff you're trying to do on this EC2, you might want to pick the right instance that you get, basically. So as soon as you pick this, you will get that virtual machine with all the stuff installed, if that makes sense. So that's for this demo. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you. I'll do a 64-bit ARM. That's going to warn about my security groups, but I'll skip that for a second. I'm going to go for, that's fine. I'm not worried so much about that. I'm not so much worried about the operating system at this point. I selected a 64-bit ARM, and that's only because it's easier to run. An ARM, I believe, is, so it's cheaper to run in terms of AWS itself in their data centers, because it takes less power and so on and so forth. For this demo, I'll just do T4 medium. That's fine. Key pair, I won't do a key pair, because what I'll do is I'll show you how I normally, well, I can do a key pair. I do have a key pair, and I'm actually not sure which is more secure. So if you do know, let me know. But I will do the old-fashioned way, where I get my SSH key and put it onto the server so I can log in. Networking settings, create a security group. I mean, if you don't know what that is, you create, basically all it is, you're creating, think of a security group as a group of security group. Think of it as a group of rules you're setting for your instance. So all you're going to say is, okay, I'm telling you that I want you to allow incoming traffic on port 80, right? Or incoming traffic on 443, which is SSL. Whoops, that was a bad 3. On SSL or SSH, for example. You want to open up SSH. Things like that. So AWS works on the principles of least privileges. So you start your EC2 instance with no privileges at all, and then you kind of have to set them yourself. So that's what a security group is, basically. If you don't set a security group, you won't be able to access that server. I don't even think you can get in via SSH. Even if I was to put in the key, I believe, I won't be able to log in, because the SSH will not be enabled. So that's what a security group is. I will use existing one because I know I've got so many. I'll just use one, saves it. And for this demo, I'll just make this 16. I'll call this test dash demo. Yeah, and then I will launch the instance. It's complaining, it's saying proceed without a key, that's fine. So it's now creating the instances. Let's go to the instances, and it's still initializing, so let's just wait a bit. Okay, so just to show you what I did, the server has been launched. I mean, it's still showing initializing for some reason, but I was able to connect, and all I did, because I don't have the SSH key on the server, I can't actually just SSH in. I don't have my SSH key on the server, therefore I can't SSH in. So what I'm going to do is, for this, just to get my key in, I'm going to use the connect option on the control panel. If you hit connect, you'll then be able to connect to this to the actual machine. And let me just check the nano paste. I don't think there are any. Yeah, so there are no keys at this point. Nobody can SSH into the machine. I'm just gonna close that. Actually, I don't want to close that. I want to get my own SSH key, and I'm just going to pause while I do that because I don't want you to see my SSH key. So I have actually just put in my SSH key, and if you don't know how to get your SSH key locally, if you just run cat.sshidrsa.public, meaning your public key, because that's the one you give another machine or something like that. So you have the public and the private together make up the connection. So I've put my public key onto the server itself. So if let's copy the IP address. If I do SSH, and I know it's Ubuntu because of the operating system, and I do that, there we go. So now, as you can see, I'm now logged in to that EC2 instance, i.e. I've got my little chunk of that massive server in X data center somewhere. So that's that. So that was as simple as creating your own EC2 instance. Obviously, you need to know which instance you want, and so on and so forth. But once you get the hang of it, it's pretty simple. So well, just for this demo, what I'm going to do is I am going to just give me a second. Just install a couple of things. So I'm gonna, just for this demo, because I want to show you something, I'm just gonna update a few things here. All I'm really going to do is install Nginx, and I believe, not sure even if this is going to work, but let's see. Just for this demo. Yes. I'll tell you why I'm doing this in a second. You can see actually running off. You can kind of give you an idea of what they're doing on these machines. If I do status, okay, it's running. The reason I want to do that is I believe if I then did, sorry, where am I? Networking. How did I get there? That's not what I wanted. Where is it? Oh, sorry. So if I copy that URL, so AWS will give you a URL you can use that normally points to an EC2 instance. So if I did that, I'm wondering if I get the Nginx page. Yeah, there we go. So you can see now it says welcome to Nginx. I'm not going to go into what Nginx is, and it's a web server, but it just shows that your EC2 instance is up and running and it's accessible from the internet, i.e. Internet traffic is getting in through the security groups and things like that. So that was what that was about. So yeah, so that was this little demo about what EC2 instances are. things like that. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment. I'll be trying to put some more, put some more videos out about AWS and some of the things that that might be helpful to others that I struggle with. So it is actually quite daunting, AWS, when you first start, but once you get the hang of it, and like I said, you follow these steps, you should be fine. Because I once had a massive $5,000 bill, and luckily AWS didn't charge me, and I didn't do any of this, because I was new to AWS. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'm a lot more familiar with it now because and the only way you do it is diving in. I mean, you can do all the tutorials in the world you want. You can do courses and stuff like that. Those are just labs. But until you bite the bullet and get in and start playing around with AWS, yeah, I mean, you will not. It'll always be, that one thing you don't sort of. If you don't, you got to be able to sort of say, "Oh, sorry, I'm just going to dive in, even though I don't know what I'm doing." The danger is it might cost me a bit of money, but I'll learn something. And I think doing it is more, you get more from doing it than you get from some sort of AWS certification, in my view. So yeah, so just make sure you, once you create your account, make sure you get your IAM set up. It's two-factor authentication, and you got budget set up. Definitely, these three are very, very, very important. And I'd go as far as saying that if you're new, I think I'm not sure, but I think if you have a look at budgets, if it exceeds somewhere, you can actually shut down services, which is very good, because just in case someone hacks your AWS account and sets up some sort of EC2 instance that does, I don't know, crypto mining or something, you want to be able to shut that thing down quickly. So definitely make sure you get these three things set up. So that's it for this video, and I will be putting out a lot more content about AWS, just in case it helps somebody else who's new to AWS and struggles. Some of the things that I went through was quite hard to get my head around how all of this worked. I just did. I learned by trying and making mistakes. So I will go into other things like Lambdas and S3 and all these other services that AWS provides. But for now, this is it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye. So yeah, thanks for watching, and hope it helps somebody who's new to AWS. Don't make some of the mistakes that I made. Yeah, give me a like if you like what you see, and I will see you in the next one. I'll probably do a bit more AWS stuff like EC2, not EC2, S3, Lambdas, stuff like that. Yeah, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.